Whether you're a lifelong New Yorker or just a happy tourist like me, you probably know the basics, like that's the plaza, that's Fifth Avenue, but do you know what that statue is right there? You've probably walked by it thousands of times and never even known. Shame on you. Today, we're gonna teach you a lesson. But we promise this lesson will be a fun one. You know how when you're a kid and all you ask is why? Well, I never quite outgrew that whole quest for knowledge phase. In fact, I've made a career out of asking who, what, where, why, and how as an arts and travel reporter for the past 20 years. So, if I have an insatiable curiosity about the exciting, inspiring, beautiful world of art, architecture, and hidden history all around us, I bet you do too. This isn't your typical what to do on a vacation travel show. Oh no, this is your all-access pass to a deeper understanding of the world's great art and architecture, people and places, history, and how did they do that. So come along on our educational journey, our field trip for grown-ups who have never quite grown up, and learn with Curious Traveler. Here's what I'm curious about at Grand Central. How did turn-of-the-century designers use this newfangled thing called electricity? Why bother to make a train station look like a palace? Are those constellations up there backwards? Why is there a patch of dirt on the ceiling? Why do I keep seeing acorns everywhere? Why are there plain old light bulbs on the chandeliers? Couldn't they afford something better? How did that woman just disappear inside the information booth? And finally, how did the clock cleaners get all the way up here to clean? Grand Central Terminal was completed in 1913 at a cost of $80 million, and at the time was hailed as the largest and greatest railway terminal in the world. Grand Central covers nearly 70 acres with a massive two-story train yard with 123 tracks, all underground, specifically so it wouldn't disturb that prime Manhattan real estate above. In 1908, all steam-powered trains had to switch to electric, and Grand Central was one of the world's first all-electric buildings and took all this new technology underground. When this was first conceived, it was really revolutionary, talking about having traffic going underground so that when you're walking above it, you don't even realize what's happening underneath.
With 700 trains coming and going every day, you don't see any trains. Right. Even on all the streets and areas, no trains to be seen. But Grand Central isn't only a triumph of civil engineering, it had to be a triumph in Beaux-Arts architecture as well.
In 1869, a wise group of people said, you know what, travel is grueling enough. When you arrive at your destination, you should enter the city through a palace, not a shed. And I'd say today, more than 100 years later, here at Grand Central Terminal, mission accomplished. The architectural firms of Reed and Stem and Warren and Wetmore created a main concourse at the center of their terminal. The space is both cavernous and majestic, at 275 feet long, 120 feet wide, and 125 feet high. It's truly palatial. The Vanderbilts, the wealthiest family in the United States, and they were the owners of the greatest railroad in this nation. And for this to be the central hub, the home point of it, in order to shout it out, to be the symbol, they made this place palatial. They made it to a temple of transportation. And this temple was built between 1903 and 1913, when the original building was torn down and replaced in that breathtaking Beaux-Arts style. Modeled after the ancient Roman baths, and like many of New York's grand landmarks, the architecture of Paris. Was this based on the Paris Opera House? Yes, as a matter of fact, the staircases on either side are modeled after those of the Paris Opera House. And even those have a little secret, because the one on the east side is actually 1 inch smaller than the one on the west side. The west side is one that's original. The other one here was put in fairly recently, even though it was planned. And just so to let archaeologists know, hundreds of thousands of years in the future, when they discover this place again, it wasn't put in at the same time. People coming through here are aghast, especially from other countries and other parts of this nation. Because where have you ever seen a building that so celebrated transportation? No airports look like this. No other train stations or terminals look like this. And to make it feel even more heavenly, as you enter the main concourse, look 125 feet up and you will see a gorgeous mural covering a staggering 35,000 square feet. It is of the night sky by artist Paul Hellieu and shows all the zodiac signs and stars in all their splendor. The only problem is he got it all backwards.
Oops. The truth is, a muralist was looking down this chart and then up at the ceiling, and he got a mirror image. The Vanderbilts, when they heard about this, came down here, and this ceiling is lit with stars to rip it all out. They came up with a much simpler explanation. They said, oh yes, we know, which they didn't. They said they did it on purpose, which they didn't.
And so the story goes that the Vanderbilts and the artist Paul César Hellieu claimed the view was meant to be from God's vantage point looking downwards.
Well, it's beautiful either way, right?
It looks great no matter what. How many people would look good even if they were all wrong?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And the famous ceiling has another, more recent secret. If you look carefully, you will see a small patch of dark on the carefully restored blue. It was left as a reminder of all the smoke and damage done before restoration. And there's many other interesting details, like the old ticket booths still standing, Vanderbilt Hall, Vanderbilt Avenue, and the Campbell Apartment, which is New York City's largest ground floor apartment, now a restaurant and bar. As you're probably catching on, since Cornelius Vanderbilt basically wrote a check for the entire terminal, I mean, who does that? He thought that he'd put his personal stamp on the place. So here is our why is that there moment. Vanderbilt acorns are hidden like Easter eggs around here. The story goes that since the Vanderbilts were self-made millionaires, they had no family crest. So they chose the acorn as their family crest, stating, "From little acorns, mighty oak trees grow."
Another beautiful and exquisite detail inside the terminal are these chandeliers behind me. Back in 1913, when they were first put up, they were dipped in 24-karat gold. Typical Vanderbilt style, right? But something perhaps even more valuable are those light bulbs. Now, I know today light bulbs were pretty common, but back then, most people did not have electricity in their own homes. And better still, as soon as you stepped outside the terminal, along the streets of New York City, those lampposts were still gas.
In fact, the Vanderbilts were so proud of Grand Central's status as one of the world's first all-electric buildings, they had all their chandeliers and lighting fixtures feature bare light bulbs, 4,000 of them in total. These plain old light bulbs are yet another icon of Grand Central. You'll also see Grand Central's iconic American flag hanging proudly since 9/11. And yet another Grand Central icon, that four-faced opal clock in the center. It's also full of secrets. Rumor has it that the four clock faces were made of opal, with an estimated value between 10 and 20 million. Actually, they're just made of opalescent glass, but hey, they're still pretty. Another secret lurks inside, under the clock, inside the information booth. There's a secret door that leads to a spiral staircase taking you underground. So many secrets here. Here's another. As we climb along another secret passageway, high above the terminal and in between the walls, through these glass catwalks for the best view. Most people never get to see this. And then we climbed higher still for a view only a rare few ever get to see. Modeled after a Roman triumphal arch, Grand Central's 42nd Street entrance is Jules Félix Coutin's massive work of art. When it was unveiled in 1914, it was considered the largest sculptural group in the world, and today still stands as a mighty symbol of the Great Railroad.
There's Mercury in the center for speed, for industry. On Mercury's right, there's Hercules for strength. And on Mercury's left, there's Minerva, the goddess of intellectualism, of thought, of contemplation. It takes all of this to make a mighty railroad, and it sure did.
And at the foot of Mercury, in the center of this mighty statement, is the world's largest Tiffany glass clock. At 13 feet in diameter, it has marked time for a century. And true to Grand Central style, there's yet another little secret hidden here. The 6 is actually a tiny window.
All right, here's the number 6 secret window I was telling you about, and what of you? Hello, New York! What is it about Grand Central Terminal that is quintessentially New York?
There are many elements about Grand Central Terminal which makes it the symbol of New York and the center of New York. It's the world's largest, it's the world's busiest, it's really the center of commerce, it's a symbol of people rushing, getting someplace. But even more than that, it's a symbol of something that's even great in beauty, in design. New Yorkers come through every day and feel for themselves a sense of rebirth, of renaissance, knowing that you too can be as re-engineered, as renewed and reclaimed as Grand Central. It's a great way to start the day. It's a great way to end the day every single day.